cost that having that particular academic program brings, but it's not as if you can quantify the cost of the entire program by looking at here are all the IB teachers in the district and this is what they cost, because we'd be having to provide some other level of academic programming. Same with something like Project Lead the Way. There's a cost associated with being involved with Project Lead the Way, but if we weren't offering that as an elective to students, we would have to be offering some other elective to students. So it's a difficult thing to quantify in a way that I think might be as meaningful as we think.
Yeah, so I think what you just said is just getting the list so I even know what we're talking about, and then from there, then I can bring it to the next level of just what we've said. If I think that there's a reason to, okay, do we agree that maybe we want to have a discussion about this? Is that the format now?
I think that's what we're looking at.
And
the general idea
I'm not ready to ask for a second or a motion.
The general idea is programs that have perhaps additional costs associated with them that serve a limited population.
Like an international school or a, what Lake Washington's doing.
Yeah, and that was very much a conversation of the board at the time, which is, do you want to create these pockets of these very high-end, high-demand programs that can only serve X number of students, or do you want to provide rich programming for all students at all schools in comprehensive environment where there's lots of choice and lots of different electives? And that was a discussion of the board at the time, and there's merits on both sides of that for sure. But I think the overwhelming sentiment at the time was, no, we want to have rich programming for all kids at all schools, not, pockets of a program that can take 125 kids from across the district and you can only get there if your parent can drive you, that kind of thing that some of the choice programs in other districts look like.
And you talked about, Amy, that we would potentially do another survey
I
to
would
the
like
community,
to
because
start having that conversation.
some of these lenses, while I agree with you, a lot of the dialogue's the same, and I'm not trying to divert too much, but let's talk about just choice. The lens now, when you can add things, might be different than the lens. Where it goes up on the rank could be different. And now highly capable is available for all students, so we don't know how this might. The lens of prosperity versus the lens. I'm trying to have that sense of humor. The lens of prosperity versus the lens of
Budget cuts.
budget cuts. Not that we're prospering.
I think it's good to start getting it on the radar and start processing it.
Relative prosperity.
Well, I know, right?
Probably was too strong of a term.
Limited resources still. All right, so any other future agenda item discussions?
So something just popped into my head, so it's gonna be probably just a first kernel of an idea, and I'm not sure, but when Superintendent Francois mentioned the Woodinville new city manager, one of the things that I noticed in Kenmore, the Kenmore city manager uses lots of interns and has given them certain amounts of projects, and then we used some graduate students for the middle school task force. Even this idea I have, there's a certain amount of that could really be done well by like a graduate student doing an internship type of thing. And there's also ways in which they can take more time than they're worth because of a whole host of reasons. And so, and having supervised lots of graduate students, knowing that. So I think it's more just, I'll bring up the idea that thinking about how we might use graduate students, whether from fields like education or public administration or management, is something I think I'd like to noodle on for a while. But I think I just like it.
From a board perspective or a district perspective?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think from a board and or from a district perspective, and I think it's problematic in. It sounds good, but more often than not, you don't get that much value out of it, and it does take a lot of supervisory time, and if you don't have that capacity, which we're challenged at that point. But just thinking about that is something it popped into my head, and I think there's some value to it, but I'm not sure this year, even this summer, is the time to do it.
So how does that differ, say, from a student teacher?
Oh, this would be mostly in areas of sports services and business services, mostly is what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
On much more on the managerial side, not on the yeah, because that system's already well established. Yeah, this would be on the other side of the house.
Okay.
Thought? Okay, any other items under future agenda items?
Are we changing that next? I didn't know we changed.
No, I'm gonna put out a, not yet. We'll discuss it next meeting, how's that sound?
That's right.
I'm gonna make a decision tree. I love graphics. So, okay, so next item on the agenda, member reports. And Sandy is up first.
Okay, so in the interest of time, the only thing in additional, what we have done as a board together, I did as PTA liaison, attend the Canyon Creek PTA meeting and did what was a riveting presentation on the structure of education and how we provide it in this country. It was well received. So just let you know that I did that as PTA liaison. And then just a question, I know it was in the board briefing, but to follow up, I think it's February 18th. We are part of a roundtable of districts in Congressional District 1. Our Congresswoman Delbeni is our Congresswoman, and she's been incredibly generous with our time and is in the district that week. That is also our midwinter break and has agreed to meet with us. North Shore has kind of been the host district for the last several sessions of these, so we've agreed to host again. I, by default, am organizer, but I am out of town, so I'm looking to see if there are any other board members that are available. I think it's
February 18th at 10 o'clock here in this room.
I thought I put it on my calendar.
Monroe and,
Monroe is coming.
are they on midwinter break?
I think just about everybody is, but we have someone from Monroe coming and someone from Lake Stevens, and I need to cycle back in with Riverview. Those were the kind of the four main districts that
That
typically.
was 10 a.m.?
10 a.m.
Yeah, I've got that on my calendar. I was planning on it.
And I am planning on going also.
Great. Okay.
I think I'm out of town, hopefully.
Okay. So
I'm trying to be out of town.
let us know, David, if you're interested in case we have to publicize.
Thank you, I'm interested. I'll take a look at my calendar and get back.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So maybe David.
So just a typo on this, David, you will contact Cindy if you decide to go, because Cindy is the order of all potential public meeting situations.
Wonderful. All right, that's it. Okay, Ken.
Yeah, and in addition to things that already been mentioned earlier, I did have various meetings on the Finance and Accountability Study Work Group with community members who are interested, and the middle school task force, both the UW graduate report, both the director, Angelo, and I met, and it was a very, very productive meeting with the researcher, the lead researcher, not the student who wrote the paper, and Carolyn and Heather and Gretchen. Yeah, okay. And got a much better understanding of what the objectives of the paper were, what was done, what wasn't really done, and thoughtful steps for moving forward. So I think that was a real useful, built out of the study session, and so that collaboration and sharing of ideas and dialogue was really useful.
So Kimberly?
You guys said everything I did or didn't do, so. If you will.
David, do you have anything to report?
I do. Wednesday, the 13th of January, I had the privilege of going to see the Marriage of Figaro at McCall Hall with the Woodinville High School Humanities program. And it was the Marriage of Figaro, and it was great to see the Woodinville High School students enjoying the opera, and I enjoyed the opera as well, so that was a lot of fun. And then Thursday, the 14th, I attended the North Shore Schools Foundation meeting with Superintendent Francois. And I just want to report on a couple highlights from that meeting. There were 6 projects that were proposed to the foundation that were approved and will be funded. So I wanted to thank the foundation for that. It's awesome. Then also the foundation has scheduled a career and college readiness seminar Wednesday, February 10th. That's going to be at the NPAC Center as well as the Bothell Commons. And there's going to be a keynote speaker, Daniel Siddiqui, talking about job flexibility, 50 jobs in 50 states, and then there's going to be a career fair with 13 pathway programs representative of the instructors as well as the students. So if anybody can attend on that, February 10th in the evening. And that's it.
Thank you, David. And I don't have any other meetings. I was at the Audit Exit Conference and the school visit to Kenmore Elementary, which was wonderful. So I am then going to segue into notes. I have some notes to go over with you guys. So for flight arrangements for NSBA, Kimberly, somebody's asking if I could contact her for preferences about flights to Boston. Awesome, okay. And then Sandy brought up the roundtable with Representative Bill Benny. So that's great, got that one off my list. So we have talked about coordination meetings. Look at this, we're so efficient. So February 3rd, we have that taken care of. But February 29th, this is a new one, guys. Larry was contacted by Rob Carlinzi, who is the Kenmore City Manager, and he would like to have a joint meeting between the North Shore School Board and the Kenmore City Council, and the time is February 29th at 7 p.m. I believe that's a Monday, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's a Monday night. I believe that's their regular council meeting night.
So,
That's great. What does that look like, though? I mean,
So we've done this before with them in a couple of different, the most recent one is they had some concerns and questions about the boundary adjustment plan, so we were there meeting with them last year. But really, it sounds like their interest is just in talking through with us, kind of a two-way dialogue about what prominent things are happening in the district. I'm sure they'll be interested in the boundaries, grade reconfiguration, kind of the what's next topic for the district, and as well, they're doing a lot as a city as far as their development and residential development and such that may be an impact to us. So they have, I would say of our three cities, Kenmore is really the most engaged partner with us as a school district. So I don't perceive that there's any agenda other than just maintaining good dialogue and communication and collaboration. So I would recommend we try and, at least if a couple of board members, I certainly am available, but at least if a couple of us could attend, I think it would be a good way to sustain an ongoing positive relationship with the city.
And have the foundation representative to the kindergarten orientation night, so not be able to.
I teach on Monday, so I can't make it, but I concur with maintaining relationships with them. I also would love to be able to do with Bothell and or Woodinville.
Bothell had proposed something earlier in the fall. They've had a fair amount of transition, so I think they're probably going to need to get settled for a while.
But they meet on Tuesday, do they not?
They do.
there's one Tuesday that wouldn't impact us.
Right, there's a way we could meet.
Because there's 3 Tuesdays they meet.
Right,
only
we
have
could
2.
meet during our regular meeting jointly with them, or we could meet on a Tuesday when we don't meet in the evening and they do. So it would be easier for schedule for them unless Kenmore wanted to come to our meeting, but.
I know there's interest with Bothell. I mean, I've talked to
Right,
people.
but yeah,
so
Mondays I can't.
need
I-
to-
I think they're just going to need to get time to get settled.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm hopeful that with a new city manager in Woodinville, perhaps there can be a new opportunity to, it's been a little bit more problematic.
That just changed?
This new city manager will begin on March 1st. The council has had some transition as a result of their recent election.
I can, and I'd like to.
I would like to. It's very difficult for me with my work to commit that far out, but that's at night, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
On a
On a Monday
night.
Monday night. So
So I've got David.
but I think it's wonderful we're doing this and yes.
So I've got David and Amy as available and Kimberly as a potential, and Sandy and Ken.
Did you
as
say
out.
you can't go, Kim?
I cannot, no.
I will get a hold of Rob tomorrow and confirm with him, and just let him know we'll probably be a small smaller group, and it'll be, I presume, very informal.
And I'm thankful that we're doing that. But it's at their regular meeting, you said.
I believe it coincides with their regular meeting.
Mhm.
It's like a work session or something.
Yeah.
Thank you. And one more thing. So, like Kimberly and Sandy may remember this. When we were talking about doing training as a board around equity issues, there was a summit in January that I was looking at going to. It has been a joint WASDA and WASA, the superintendent organization, Diversity and Equity Summit. It has been rescheduled till May 24th and 25th. Now, what's even more interesting is they've reached out to Larry to request that North Shore present on our equity and diversity plan and our work with Education Northwest as a board. So right now, on May 24th, we have a retreat scheduled from 2 to 6 p.m. And so that is the preferred day that they would like us to present at their summit. And I don't know how soon we have to get back to them with a response.
I'll see Helene this weekend at the Ledge Conference, and I think she was hoping we'd have some commitment. She said, so this is a summit where I think folks are encouraged to bring teams together. So it's not a conference, it doesn't sound like with breakout sessions like a typical conference, but everybody will be sort of doing the same things at the same time with their teams as they consider how they want to move equity and diversity forward within their own environment. So it's a part of the conference they're putting together, and they believe that our piece of that with Ed Northwest and the work we're doing with them would fit better on Monday afternoon. They're hoping. We have a 7 p.m. board meeting that night. Conference wraps up at 3:30. It's Tuesday. I'm sorry. The 24th.
It's in SeaTac.
It's at SeaTac. The conference wraps up at 3:30, so we have plenty of time to get back. The complication is that we've got a retreat scheduled that day from 2 to 6 p.m., which is typically superintendent and board evaluation that time of year. The 25th, the next day, the conference is still going on. I don't have anything on my calendar that day. That's a Wednesday. She said she could probably try and recraft the conference schedule to fit us in on the 25th, but it was a better fit in her mind for the 24th. But, you know, we also have our own calendar of events too.
Do people have thoughts? We could look at rescheduling the retreat to try to make it work.
When do they need an answer?
I think she's hoping I could give her some kind of response by this weekend. And I don't see this as something that the entire board would necessarily need to go to unless you were interested in actually attending the conference as a team. I would say that myself and perhaps one board member could go down and participate in this this presentation with Ed Northwest.
So I had planned on attending the conference, it was going to be in January, and sort of tucked it in the back of my brain. So I would be happy to go, and I'm happy to reschedule the retreat. I wanted, irrespective of us presenting, I was hoping to go to this conference.
I don't have mind rescheduling the retreat and then figuring out as I get closer if I can be a part of it.
And Ken, do you have any inclinations one way or the other?
I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I'm fine rescheduling the retreat.
Yeah, if it's an attractive conference and I hadn't heard about it earlier, I would probably be interested in attending the conference as well as rescheduling the retreat.
Thank you. We'll look at calendar.
Just as a point of information, that if it's quote unquote just a retreat, we don't really have a difficult obligation with our operating protocols and RCW or whatever. It's our regular meetings that are kind of more formally.
For sure.
So if we have or don't have retreats we normally have, that's just a simple scheduling point for us.
Exactly, and
Rather
again,
than more notice. Okay,
right, yeah, it's right now it's penciled in to be superintendent and board evaluation for the year, so we could move it back a week, 2 weeks. I mean, we have lots of flexibility. All right. On that note, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone. You have a seat.
I was like,
You're like getting